हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
कृषि संस्कृति जनमंगलम कृषिकार यश आयुर्बलम
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
दक्षिण गाथा गुर्जरी गिरिकुंजवन सृष्टि भरी दक्षिण गाथा गुर्जरी गिरिकुंजवन सृष्टि भरी भूमि स्नेह शीतल साक्षरी भूमि स्नेह शीतल साक्षरी सागर सुमन सरिता भरी
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
संझाण उदवाड़ा स्मृति जरथोष्ट्र आतश संस्कृति उपराट तीर्थल आहवा और डांग डुम्मस वेड़ छी
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
मुंशी मिठू मोरार जी दादा रतन कल्याण जी टंडेल डांगी खारवा हलपति अनाविल पारसी
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
આપણે પિન્ટુભાઈને આપ્યા છે 3000 બરાબર
दांडी नमक सत्याग्रही सरोवर नर्मदा है कंकरा सब शंकरा है कंकरा सब शंकरा
हे समस्त रिद्धि कृषिमूलं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं धनधान्य औषधि सम्पन्नं
પહેલા ભાડું તો નહીં
So good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Lalit Modi, co-organizing secretary of this VET-NI webinar series, along with my colleague Dr. Deepak Suthar, organizing secretary of this VET-NI webinar series 2020. I welcome to all the participants in this 25th webinar of this series, topic on challenges in veterinary forensic pathology, which will be delivered by our eminent speaker, Dr. Bhavesh Trangadia, Associate Professor, Department of Veterinary Pathology, College of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Junagadh Agriculture University, Junagadh. So before starting the webinar, uh, I would like to just introduce about our today's speaker, Dr. Bhavesh Trangadia. So Dr. Bhavesh Trangadia completed his BVSc and AH from Gujarat Agriculture University, SK Nagar, Gujarat in the year 1999, and also completed his Master of Veterinary Science in Gujarat Agriculture University, SK Nagar in the year 2004, and he completed his PhD degree from Navsari Agriculture University, Navsari in the year 2017. Dr. Tangadia started his career as a research officer in Department of Toxicology at Jai Research Foundation in the year 2003. And after that, he joined as a scientist first at a Research and Development Laboratory, National Dairy Development Board, Anand, from 2004 to 2006. And 2006 onward, he joined as a scientist first post at Research and Development Center, Indian Immunological Limited, Hyderabad. And he worked at Hyderabad from 2006 to 2010. And after that, he joined as a assistant professor in Department of Veterinary Pathology, College of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Navsari Agriculture University, Navsari, Gujarat from 2010 to 2018. And currently, Dr. Tangadia working as associate professor in Department of Veterinary Pathology, College of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Junagadh Agriculture University, Junagadh, Gujarat. In his career, Dr. Trangadia also received more than 10 prestigious awards, which include Best Oral Presentation Award, Best Poster Presentation Award, as well as Professor J.P. Trivedi Award and late Professor V.A.G. Pinto Cash Prize. Dr. Trangadia published more than 13 research paper, more than 30 research paper in various national and international journals. So in short, Dr. Bhavesh Trangadia have a very vast experience regarding his pathology, particularly veterinary pathology. So I welcome Dr. Trangadia also. And before start the webinar, some instruction for our today's participants. I request to all the participants, please off your mic as well as the webcam. It will be helpful to improve the band size or net facility or presentation to improve our presentation of whole the webinar. If anybody have a question or doubt, please write down in chat box only. It will be clear by our today's speaker after the completion of his presentation. So now I request Dr. Bhavesh Trangadia sir to please start the webinar. Dr. Trangadia sir, please.
You are now muted.
Hello, Dr. Modi.
Yes, sir. You are audible,
You are
sir.
now
You are
unmuted.
audible, sir.
But please, your NIIT department should stop sharing, no? Then I can start sharing my screen.
No, no, sir. You are
Directly I
now
can
you are
go,
presenter, sir.
but I am
Okay.
unable to
Okay.
share my screen. Something is coming in
Okay.
between.
Okay. Please wait, sir. Please wait, sir.
You are now muted.
Okay, or please tell me.
Yes, sir. Now visible.
Okay, so
Now visible.
shall I go for?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good morning all, and thank you, Dr. Modi, for introduction. Before I start this lecture, I would like to thank authorities of Junagadh Agricultural Universities and Navsari Agriculture Universities for providing me this opportunity to talk something about veterinary forensic pathology. And also I would like to thank Dr. Deepak Suthar, Dr. Lalit Modi and his colleagues and team for providing me this opportunity. So before I start this presentation, I would like to put disclaimer that is put only for educational purposes, and figures and text are taken from books I will mention in the references, and sources other than books are also mentioned here and duly acknowledged. If any references are missed, it is unintentional. So generally we put references at the end of the lecture, but I would like to put here because very few textbooks are available on veterinary forensic pathologies. Among these, I have preferred this textbook by Munro and Munro. Under that, this is only 106-page textbook, including references, glossary, everything, and it's an excellent textbook. Whoever wants to learn very basic things about forensic veterinary pathology. Then I have taken most of the text and photographs from this Jason Brooks textbook, Veterinary Forensic Pathology, published recently 2018, is a faculty at University of Pennsylvania, and 2 volumes. Around each volume around 150 pages only. This is an excellent text. If you want to bit detail, then you can even refer this Melinda Marks text, this book. And if you want to go on the legal side, then you can refer this Cooper and Cooper, which is published by Blackwell Publishing. So just for your information, and other references I will mention as we go on. So why I have chosen this topic, because this is a very novel field with multidisciplinary approach. It includes forensic osteologist, forensic toxicologist, forensic anthropologist, and so on. So it is a kind of teamwork which is involved in this kind of forensic veterinary pathology studies. And if whenever we talk about forensic, it related to the law. So here forensic veterinary pathology is defined as the application of knowledge of veterinary pathology for elucidation of evidence for the court. So forensic word includes law. So just remember, and there are various terminologies used like forensic medicine. So forensic medicine can be divided further in 2 parts. When we talk about the examination of live animals, and it is told as clinical forensic medicine. And if we work on the deceased or dead animals, then it will come under the forensic pathology. So before I start, there are 3 manners in which animal may die, basically. One is coma, which involves the central nervous system. Whenever there is injury to brain, it is physical, chemical, or due to any endogenous or exogenous substances. Wherever PM appearance, you may find brain meninges, congestion, hemorrhages, or clots, whatever. So coma is related with the central nervous system. Other terminology or the manner of death is syncope. When we talk about it, is related to heart. So due to stoppage of heart action, whatever may be the reason, one reason may be heavy blood loss due to any accident or anything, shock, hypovolemic shock, asthenia which is related to the deficient heart muscle power, when your myocardium is weak. And PM appearance, if you see in such animals, then contracted heart with empty chambers, because there are very less blood due to blood loss. Chambers with blood in case of asthenia, because there is a deficiency of heart muscle power. So heart is unable to push blood from its chambers to the aorta. And as these organs, visceral organs, are not sufficiently receive the blood, so they are pale in color. So this is the second manner of death, that is fatal syncope. And third manner is death is asphyxia. Asphyxia means this related to respiratory function, and we'll talk about later a bit more about asphyxia. Stoppage of respiratory function due to lack of oxygen. So main is hypoxia or anoxia. Just remember that. So it may be due to mechanical obstruction of passage of air, bronchospasm, carbon monoxide, stoppage of chest wall movement by pressure from outside, collapse of lung due to penetrating wounds, embolism of pulmonary artery, which blood will not reach there. So there are basically three manners of death which affect three vital organs: brain, that is called this coma. The second is fatal syncope, which affects the heart, and third affects the lung. So we can say this is respiratory failure, that asphyxia. But when I go through various textbooks and articles in from Western parts of the world, then they are classifying the manner of death in different manners, like natural caused by the natural death, accidental death, non-accidental death, euthanasia, and undetermined. So they are mentioning, but there is no uniformity world over to mention the manner of death. Now, very important part in forensic pathology is crime scene investigations. So crime scene investigation, very important part because it's begin at the crime scene. And the crime scene speaks a silent language. It will provide information about victims, suspects, and crime that took place. So this is an excellent part because whenever you go for the crime. Hello?
You are now unmuted.
Yes, sir. Please wait, sir. Please wait. I again request to all the participants, please off your mic. Dr. Deepak.
Shall I move?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Continue, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You are now
So
muted.
whenever you go to examine the crime scene, you have to check the position of the animal, and when you go for the how animal has been treated before death, what are the just take a look around because it will provide you very good evidences. And unfortunately, in veterinary science, veterinarians does not frequently visit the crime scene. But you have seen in the news TV, in human beings, they put the yellow tape and this is area under this quarantine, and then a medical team is working. So they have very good established mechanism. But since it is a novel branch, even in this Western countries also, very few universities, I will show you at the end of this presentation, this branch is not well developed. So we are far away from this branch. So we have to learn at least basic, and I want to tell you some basic things about forensic veterinary pathology. So here very important that every contact leaves a trace, and the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So if you won't find any evidence, you cannot rule out anything. So you have to think about every aspect. You might be knowing there are very many few cases or many cases in human beings where you won't find the actual reason of death or who is the perpetrator or victim suspect for that, because many are this court will go they leave them because absence of the evidence. So you can see. So here three most important action you have to see. First you have to recognize the which is evidence. That's what I want. You should have eye that you can look at that and you say this is the evidence where I should collect. One example I will give you. Suppose you are going at the hot summer in somewhere in poultry house, just for understanding, for the death of some birds. So immediately you see that the waters are empty. So animal might have died due to the dehydration because they are not able to get proper water. So this is you recognize. So immediately you have to take that photograph, because then after you go or in your presence, the owner may put water into the waters. So you may not collect such evidence afterwards. So this is just example I am giving. So wherever you just simple reason, the dehydration, because whenever suppose you want to go to court and you have to prove that that animals died due to the dehydration, these photographs or this evidence may be helpful. Then proper collection. So suppose proper collection means suppose something you are collecting and you have to preserve it for suppose blood or whatever. I am coming to that also. So that should be proper collection and preservation. Suppose you are collecting the tissue samples for histopathological examinations, then you must put in 10% neutral buffer formalin. The quantity of formalin is 10 to 20 times. And I'm telling you, we are receiving samples at the department from some outer agencies. They are putting very little formalin, and by the time it reaches to us, just we are getting these autolytic tissues. So this is a very bad preservation of samples or evidences. So you must do that. There are 5 methods of documenting a crime scene. You can make a sketch or map, because it will be helpful while you write the report. You have to give ultimately report, and it may be submitted to the court. Photography in such a way that it should include the high resolution photography from the very near distance of the animal or animal shed, whatever you are taking photograph from the far. So it will give you a look of the overall surroundings also. If you feel you have to go for videography, so let me tell you that photography and videography are excellent evidence, because some of the things which you may not get after this crime scene is over. So photographs is the only evidence which is available with you, or videography is the only evidence which is available with you. So don't miss this opportunity. And nowadays there are this camera or mobile good cameras, SLR cameras are available, and no need to add rolls. So you can take as many as photos for later reviews, and it can be stored in your at a safe place for evidences later in court, because you never know when the court summons will come. It will come after also. So then you should have these all photographies and videography at safer place. It will be helpful to you in recapitalize what you have done or what is the actual case. Measuring of suppose animal or not taking, not means whatever point you can write, because it will again help you in the this report writing. What are the different evidences? Just I put this. Physical evidences, then biological evidences. You can collect the blood, saliva, tissue. Suppose some knife you found, the blood on the knife, and what animal is victim or deceased or dead, the blood or saliva from animal, then you can match the DNA. So you can prove that the ex animal, whatever animal in question, has been killed by or has been abused by particular knife or particular physical thing. So you have to make this matching. So this the idea: hair, tissue, bone, teeth, whatever you can get. Transient evidence is easily lost or changed over time. So suppose you have to blood temperature, after 1 minute or 2 minutes, blood temperature may vary. Composition after suppose animal died today and after 10 days you are visiting, so there are significant carcass decomposition may occur due to higher temperature particularly. So such kind of evidence you must not miss, and you have to immediately note down in your diary or wherever you are writing all these things. Circumstantial evidence, as I told you, whenever you are going to the case study, just look around. Wherever you find something, you note down, east, west, whatever, right? Suppose some this jungle is there surrounding, some animal is grazing. So why I'm telling anything, whatever you find, it may be helpful in report writing. You should note. Sorry. Entomological evidences. This is if more than 3 days, 36 hours to 3 days has been passed, you may find some maggots. So especially boat flies will come first, and you can maggots in quantities to start this eat dead tissue, and it is excellent evidence when you are proving the animal might have died before 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. This evidence you must note it down, or you can take care of that. Patterns, bite marks, especially suppose your animals has been attacked by the wild animals, wild dogs, or even this our pet dogs, pets. So you can see the bite marks. This is very important. Some blood spatter, some animal quarreling with each other, or with this wound patterns, it will give you idea that whether it is killed by particular person or it is attacked by the dogs or wild animals. And weapon patterns, I will come to that later on. Weapon patterns means what type of weapon. Knife, then it is sharp on one side or sharp on both sides. Likewise, there are numerous possibilities. You have to explore wherever you are going for this collection of evidence and for crime scene investigations. So here I will just see crime scene will tell you about suspect, about victim or physical evidence. It will be linked with each other. And you can write this evidence this is taken from the book which I mentioned in the references. So they are just putting this evidence, so it is very helpful with a date and signature. This is very good because chain of custody must be maintained. And here if you see photograph, so suppose this photograph I put just for information, but suppose you are going to for the crime scene investigation at a dog shelter, and you find the medicine or anabolic steroid or something like that you should collect, because why they have used for that. So one question came while I was reading that the person was telling that anabolic steroids were found in the dog shelter. The person told that this is not used for the dogs, but I am using this anabolic steroid. So how can you prove? You have to take samples from that particular dog, then you can check the level of that particular anabolic steroid. If it is found high or above the normal reference level, then you can prove that particular anabolic steroid is used in dogs also. So that kind of evidences you can collect, and you can prove your truth in the court with evidence. So this is about brief crime scene investigation. This is an important part, and 1 hour lecture can be given on this. So as I told you, I will just touch the basic of that things. Forensic necropsy and report writing. Forensic necropsy in our country, you know, this police inquest written letter must be there before you go for it, or owner's permission in writing is required. And as I mentioned, the drawback in our case or in forensics also, veterinary pathologist is rarely invited to the visit site, so we have very less idea about the what are the crime scene or site investigation, and we can miss the evidence of sting of animals. Suppose animal struggles on the ground, then you may see the marks of the struggling, like the soil or something like that. Attempt to escape, somebody has caught the animal, or restraint can be accessed. So these kind of evidence we miss because we rarely visit or invited to visit the site. In case of multiple deaths, suppose near 10 animals had been died, you have to check whether all animals died at a time or different time intervals. So this will prove many things. So it will be very important, because when sequentially died, then you have to check whether it has been the cause of death is same or different, or what are the consequences that you can check. Then very good example, when you go incident and death and discovery at one site. Suppose some animal has drowned due to drowning. Incident take place, immediately there is death, and also animal found nearby that pond or something like that. So incident also take place that nearby in pond, death occur in pond, and discovered animal also at the one side. When incident in one side and death and discovery at other side, this happens especially when there is a firearm injury. Suppose bird is flying and you have killed that bird through rifle. So minute injury is there. So blood will be die, but at the far distance to the injury. Second thing happen whenever there is a, suppose some carcass is there with poisoning. Animal, birds can eat such flesh from such animal. Then what happens? The mechanism will start, or the death will occur after some times, whether 1 day or 2 days. So incident at one side, but then bird will fly to other side and it died the other places. So incident took place at one side, so death and discovery at the other side. So this will give you idea about possible poisoning case, here possible drowning. So there are many things, but just will give you an idea. An incident and death at one side and discovery at other side. Suppose somebody has killed animal, then they drag the animal and put at the other side. So incidents and deaths taken place at the one side, and they drag animal to other side, far side, distant side, and then they put their animal and they run off. So you can find discovery. So you can even find these abrasion marks on the animal. So this is due to post-mortem abrasions. You have to see all these kind of while going for the investigation. This forensic necropsy, you should document it reliably, as I mentioned also. You can even take the radiography. I will come to that also later on. And I already mentioned about photography, proper sample collection and preservation, labeling, storage, and chain. This is very important, chain of custody. Chain of custody means, suppose you are collecting the sample, and you must know that these samples are going to whom, after that whom. So this is called chain of custody. So finally, samples are in whose custody, because whenever court asks you, you should have all these records. Because you are, for example, you are sending samples to the forensic laboratory, human medical forensic laboratory, then you must have that letter, and who is the responsible person, you should know that, where the samples are in this custody. So these kind of things you should. Report writing, I have mentioned many things, but this is you can prepare your format, or you can go to the Cornell University website. You may find this report writing very simple, and this heading, subject, reason for examination, why you are examining the animal. You can write due to the letter received from this for crime scene or forensic findings if you have visited. Otherwise, if it is mentioned in the letter, which you are request letter, medical history of animals, which is very difficult to collect in Indian condition. But you can collect this history in foreign, because they maintain this medical record. This will be very helpful to differentiate between this abuse, animal abuse, and motor vehicle accidents. Abbreviations and definitions, because whenever you submit reports to the court, they don't know this very terminology which is typical to the veterinary science. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Modi?
Yes,
You
sir.
are
Yes,
now
sir.
unmuted.
Please
Am
continue.
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes,
audible.
sir. Yes, sir.
Please. Thank you. So abbreviations we must put to the
You are now
which is
muted.
understood by the court or judge, because they are not veterinary scientists. So radiography, I will come to the surgical interventions. Suppose some animal died post surgery, so you must write whether this is due to rupture of suture or not proper surgery, because these all are litigations from the owner side. So you have to prove what is the actual reason. So that's you must know. Entomological findings, I told whether blowflies are present, maggots are present or not. Summary, time of death, which I will cover, but it is very important. This time since death, and finally cause of injury. What could be the, suppose, sharp injury, blunt injury? I will come to that. Manner of injury, how it could have been occurred. That also I will cover. Mechanism of death, I already covered it. Cause of death, manner of death, and conclusion. What is your conclusion in final report? So these all must be included in report writing. So you can take format from the any foreign university website, or you can prepare your own format. Now, what is the difference between the postmortem we are doing routinely and forensic postmortem? The standard postmortem which we are doing routinely is performed to find the cause of the death or cause of illness to satisfy insurance claim or satisfy the owner. But forensic postmortem is performed to answer a specific legal question. For example, suppose owner is telling that my neighbor has killed my dog with knife. So you have to prove whether the first dog has been killed by knife or not, first thing. Or second thing, you have to prove whether that is also of course this duty of other department, but they have to prove that whether the knife has been the dog has been killed by neighbors or not. And also you have to prove that knife the killed dog that have put knife before the death or after the death. So some of the legal questions you have to reply. And remember this very most important part, where suppose unfortunately or you have to go to the court. So it is not pathologist's job to prove guilt or innocence. No, don't ever give your opinion about whether he is guilty or innocent. Just you give your opinion or your observations, which is in fact. And because judge may ask, then you have to provide photographic evidence or radiographic evidence or any other evidence or this photograph of that particular area. Because judge may ask, how do you know it has been killed by the knife? And you have to say this wound, or I will come to that knife, something you have to prove. That is the job of the whether it is guilty or innocent is the job of prosecutor and judges and court. So don't ever give your opinion about whether some person is guilty or innocent. Remember that. So what is the job of pathologist is to educate to the court to their findings. Court will ask questions, you have to reply fact that this is due to X, Y, Z. So your job as a pathologist or veterinarian is to educate the court, because court doesn't know the veterinary science. Court means judge. So you have to educate them. That is your duty. So this is also I've taken picture from that book. You can see this how finally this evidence, it is wall animal. So in foreign country, what they will do, they will just take radiograph as such. So why this radiograph has been taken? Because it will give you a clue. Suppose some firearm injuries are there, picture will come. It will, this is, see, they have put this some stainless steel or some metal wire, so it can be seen in the radiograph. Dr. Modi, my cursor has been cursor is visible.
You are
Yes,
now
sir.
unmuted.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay. So this wire is can be seen in radiography. This is put for this labeling here somewhere. So just you have to check radiography. Radiography, I will tell you, is an excellent tool. And you may argue with me that radiography is not available everywhere. But I want to tell you that you can even go to the human radiologist. They can give you radiograph and some of the findings, because that will be very useful. Suppose in case of especially firearm injury or fractures, and it will prove your case. And this branch will definitely will improve or will advance in our country also within few years. I hope so. So suppose if you find such carcass, then you may find this is not of use, but this animal has been killed due to firearm, and some of the these bullets has been recovered from these animals. You can find here some of the parts of the bullets. So every evidence in case of forensic pathology is helpful to prove your case in the court. That's what I want to mention here. So in this is the difference between standard postmortem and forensic postmortem. This is another case. Skull has been broken, animal has been buried. They've taken out the animal and they try to make the skull with the glue. So what would you find? The animal has been hit by the bullets. Here, see, is the bullet injury. They have this. This is the evidence in the court. So every evidence is very, very important in the court. So you have to take. You cannot miss any evidence and properly collect it and preserve it. See, that's what I was. Radiograph. You can clearly see there are 2 bullets are present in animal. So your case is very strong. Just take radiograph and you can see this bullet is there in the. And this bullet, I think, in the esophagus. So you can see here nearby. So you can prove this. How storage condition of the different. I'm not just going in detail, but I want to tell you, don't ever freeze the blood. Never. This is very important. You can refrigerate it best. Urine also you can freeze. Even in urine you can put, if you're not for microbiological examination, you can put the preservatives. Then hairs, bones is you can preserve in acceptable all manners, even at room temperature. Hair also, because these are keratin hair, so it will be preserved. Swab, collecting swab, you put temperature controlled environment, means not very hot temperature. Feces you can preserve frozen, or you can buccal swab you can temperature put in the temperature controlled environment. Suppose you want to long storage. Long storage means 2-3 weeks or more than that. Then you can put in temperature, most of the samples in temperature controlled environment. Now, estimation of postmortem interval. This is the even it will be used non-forensic cases also. And you are mostly aware of these things, but I just want to tell you. Algar mortis is cooling up the body after death, because the heat produced by the various metabolic activities by the cells. So after death, it will be ceased or stopped. Hence, then you can see the temperature is going down. So just the thumb rule is there is a decrease in temperature 1.5 to 2 degree Fahrenheit for 1 hour. This is the thumb rule. It may be there may be variation on the body condition or many things, temperature, insulation, environment conditions. It will affect on all these things. Another is livor mortis. This is the accumulation of blood due to gravity on the lower side. Suppose the animal is on the left lateral recumbency, it will be accumulated on the left side of the body. So this is called the gravity. Here, two parts is very important. This is in human beings. It will start around 30 minutes to 2 hours, and it can be remain for 8 to 12 hours in human beings. But there is no such data is available for animals. So livor mortis will tell you about things that suppose after death of animal, there are non-fixed livor mortis and fixed livor mortis. Non-fixed means the blood, suppose you put the digital pressure, then blood will blanch. Blanch means it will come to the side before it got fixed. In non-fixed case. In fixed case means once after 8 hours or so, the blood vessels got ruptured. So blood will come out. So then it becomes fixed. So once it becomes fixed after 8 or 12 hours, and you put the digital pressure, it will not blanch, means it will remain there. And what happens, suppose animal, so after death, if they change the animal, the side or condition, it is very good this evidence to see. And it will also give you, suppose the animals, you have put some object means suppose some stone or some wooden things or any object, then it will give you the exact imprint of that object on animal skin if it is on that side or on the object. So it will give you a just that animal location has been changed. Rigor mortis is you know, this for a normal contraction and this for contraction also, and this ATPs are required for the this relaxation of muscles also. So after death there is no ATP formation, and rigor mortis is the stiffening of the muscles. So it will also start around if you see that 2 to 6 hours after death, and it will goes off about 36 hours. This is rough estimate because it will be affected by the animal condition, environmental temperature, then insulation. For suppose example in sheep, there are the this hair or wool coat. So there are many things, but just remember this is the stiffening of muscles will give you a bit idea about the time interval. Desiccation. Desiccation is drying, post-mortem drying of mucous membrane, especially cornea. You can see that. A delicate skin surface may result in changes of color or texture of that particular organ, especially skin. Decomposition is I can say these two processes will work. Autolysis means enzymes released by the dead cells of the tissue, and putrefaction. Mummification, you know, then sometimes what happens that body may become generally desiccated rather than progress in decomposition. But sometimes what happens, due to low humidity, bacteria cannot putrefy the carcass and it may go under the mummification. So these kind of these post-mortem changes are there in the body. Now, how you can estimate the post-mortem intervals? There are many tests available. The gross changes, what I have mentioned, rigor mortis, livor mortis, these are temperature changes, algor mortis, whether this boat fly larva, fly larva are present or not. Then ancillary methods like botany. In botany, you can say some plants, if animal has taken the degradation rate of the plant. These are not very good. Postmortem chemistry, especially this level of sodium and potassium in vitreous humor, because vitreous humor is the very low rate of this autolysis. Ocular tonometry, various parameters or size, shape, and internal parameters of the eye. Molecular methods of the using the DNA degradation, microbial assay, some of the microbiome, suppose present in the intestine, then you can take, and the changes in the microbiota may be helpful to this degradation, microscopic changes of photolitis, and radionucleotide based method of the carbon dating and all. But these all are methods which is not available in each and every laboratories or countries, and it will not give you exact postmortem interval, means time since death. So this is the photographs, this lividity on the left lung. So don't confuse it with the this actual lesion. This is postmortem findings. You can see this accumulation of the blood on the left lung, not on the right. So animal might have been in the left lateral recumbency. So paid organ are excellent to see this, even liver mortis in the internal organs. You can see in the skin also, but some animals, suppose black Labrador and all, it is very difficult to see. But lung, almost usually you may find this lividity. Another example of the postmortem findings is the kidney of the cat. So you may find this pseudomelanosis. It is not, it is also postmortem findings, because this part of kidney may be nearby the intestine. So intestine, after death, the bacteria present in intestine, what they will do, they after this they form the from iron from the hemoglobin, and they produce the hydrogen sulfide gas. So H2S and iron will form the iron sulfide. Iron sulfide is black in color, so this black discoloration can occur. See here, it is not only one side, so loop of the intestine may be in contact with this kidney. So remember, this is pseudomelanosis, is the postmortem finding. This is not the actual lesion. So normally, if you see this very early stage, the body is normal condition. As time passes, early decomposition, the body becomes greenish in color. This is advanced decomposition, and you may find this the rib. You can see the rib of the animal here. This skeletonization, only skeletal remains of the animals, and this is the only bones. So this kind of stage will pass if the time passes. And there is a very broad range of you may find within the 6 months, 3 months, depend on the environmental conditions. So this is this picture also has been taken by the Jason Brooks book, what I mentioned in the references. So one of the diagram is mentioned in the book I referred. So if sign of gross decomposition is there, then more than 36 hours. An insect also may come, maggots. Just if decomposition there, you can assume more than 36 hours, 2 days, around 2 days. If not, then body cool to touch. No, then muscle rigidity. This body cooling is Alger mortis, and here muscle rigidity is rigor mortis. So if body cooling is not there, it means there is still this rigor mortis. If rigor mortis is still there, then you can see the 2 to 24 hours. And if rigor mortis is not set, then only 3 to 6 hours. So rigor mortis is set once, then 2 to 24 hours. If rigor mortis is not set, then 3 to 6 hours. If body is not cool. If cool means rigor mortis is there, cooling of the body. Then even again the rigor mortis is there 8 to 36 hours, because it will start within 8 to 36 hours, rigor mortis is there, then it disappears, start disappearing. And then here also more than 36 hours, you find body is cooling, means already temperature is very down and there is no rigor mortis. Rigor mortis also passed. If rigor mortis is there, 8 to 36 hours. One thing I want to tell you that all these gross changes will come or overlap one another. You can see a lividity is there and rigor also starts. And fixed lividity. Fixed lividity means after that there is no blanching of the blood. So early rigor, then it starts setting, then poor rigor mortis and passing of rigor mortis after 36 hours. Rigor 8 to 36 hours depend on various environmental conditions. Even color changes, this is a discoloration, means start decomposition. Bloat and purge means decomposition. And skin and hair sloughing means advanced decomposition. Why there is bloating? Because gas is produced by the organisms present in the especially intestine and rumen. So there will be timeline. You can see a timeline also. This is very good reference. Now coming to this forensic pathology, blunt force trauma. So blunt force trauma is depend on the force and size of the object. So course, if smaller object diameter can cause the most damage or more damage as compared to larger object diameter, because smaller object can hit the smaller area of the body, and the dissipation of that injury will be in the smaller part of that area. So its impact is more as compared to larger size object. Remember, that's why fractures are more common in animal abuse. Animal abuse means suppose you are hitting animal with a stick. So, and as compared to motor vehicle accidents, suppose some animals are going down from your vehicles, your bike or your car, then it is a larger object because it can go down, and the ribs may not fracture comparatively to this animal abuse. So there are three parts I will come. Abrasion means most superficial wound of the skin. I will show you the picture. Bruises means blood leaks from vessels within the skin or from the deeper tissue. This is the excellent example. And remember this, I will come to show you a picture. Hair and skin color commonly obscure. So in case of bruises, you have to remove the skin or de-skin the animal, because bruises are generally intradermal and subcutaneous. So if you want want to remove the skin, you may miss this bruises or contusions, because skin from the outside will looks normal. The margin of bruises spread and blur with time. It means you have to take pictures. This is transient, as I told you in that. You have to take picture as soon as possible, otherwise it will become spread and you may not get the proper picture. Taking the shape of a bruise is unreliable guide to the outline of the object, because suppose you are hitting with the stick, then initially bruise may give you idea about the object, but if it spread, then you may not find. It is not 100% every time you may find this photograph at the rib fractures and repetitive injuries, as I mentioned here, is in abuse cases, but not in motor vehicle accident. Reason being, the in case of repetitive injury or abuse injury, the object is smaller size. It will hit hard on that particular area and there are chances of rib fracture. Whereas here, the area of impact is larger. So chances of fracture in motor vehicle accidents are comparatively low. Challenge. What is the challenge in age of bruising? So all animals having a different time interval to the change in color of the. I have just given an example of cattle and sheep. You can see red and hemorrhagic 0 to 10 hours after injury. Then it becomes dark colored within 24 hours. And water in consistency 24 to 38 hours. Rusty orange and color more than 3 days. This is a guide. It varies from animal to animal, and other thing, it varies from species to species, especially in the animals. So this is the, you have to remember. I just give an example. In poultry also it is different. So trauma occurring immediately before death can lead to hemorrhages and subcutaneous tissue in the muscle septa between muscle. Why I have written this sentence? Suppose we are talking about the trauma and lividity all, but after death we are talking, but we have to take the immediate period before death. So it is called peri-death surroundings. Suppose 1 hour before death or half an hour or 10 minutes before death and 10 minutes after death. That also we have to keep in mind. So time period, so half an hour or 1 hour before death and after, because the changes this will be, you should keep in mind. It is very difficult to differentiate between such kind of things. Another is, first is abrasion, second is bruising, and third is laceration. Laceration means tearing or splitting of the tissues. Can occur due to motor vehicle accidents. Remember, suppose the motor vehicle hit hard animals or heavy blows from a blunt weapon. I'm coming to that. Or violent shaking and tearing, because muscle have certain limits. So if you say violently to the animal, must be torn off, tearing of the muscles. Frequently do not conform to the shape of the object. Which object has been used to cause the lacerations is not confirmed frequently here. Severe lacerated muscles may be present underneath the intestine. So in case of this bruising and lacerations, you must de-skin the animal to see the exact wound condition or exact blow. The margins of lacerated wounds are usually irregular. This is very important differentiate between this sharp wound and lacerations. I will also show this this comparison also later on. So remember this, the wounds edges are irregular. Just remember this. See, this is abrasion in the bird. If you see, this is the superficial loss of the tissue. And this is the bruising. Here, if feathers are there, you may not appreciate this bruising. So removal of feather in must or in animals, deskinning. This is the bruising. You can see here, you can appreciate well. This picture has been taken by the books from the Munro. And here you can see the laceration. You can see laceration or irregular border, the deep wound or tearing of the tissue. So abrasion, bruising, and laceration. Even you can deskin here and you can find this actual picture later on. This is the timeline. This is the human picture taken from the human side, just for your understanding how it changes in color. See, initially bruises due to hemoglobin is reddish in color. Then it becomes bluish. Then you can see greenish tinge here. This is greenish. Here also, why this greenish? Because hemoglobin is converted into bilirubin. Biliverdin, which is green pigment. Here you can see one. Then converted to bilirubin. So rusty orange type color, you can see this orange type color. So this will give you idea about this timeline. Here timeline is also written. For 2 days it is red, then blue or purple for 2 to 5 days. 5 to 7 days it is green in color. And if yellowish or rusty or orange color, then more than 1 week. So this is just guide. It may vary from individual to individual, but just you can take it as a guide. Just remember this. This is another blunt force trauma. The animal has been fell down from the motor vehicle, and can you appreciate the rib marks here? Due to this, the rib has been firmly put blow on the this lung. You can see rib marks, and this animal has been kicked by the owner. So you can see this is the liver rupture, and you know once liver is ruptured, there is a hemoabdomen, and the animal may die due to hypovolemic shock because hemoabdomen can occur. Remember this. This is I was talking about how can you differentiate between motor vehicle injuries and abuse. If you find the fracture of the ribs at different intervals, it is a job of the forensic radiologist. We are not expert in everything, being a pathologist or veterinarian. So callus formation is there, and if you find this injury or fractures or history of fracture, as I mentioned in the medical report, because in India we are not very well maintaining the medical report. In foreign countries, they can ask for medical reports, or in court can ask for medical reports. So if medical reports are seen, then what will happen? You can see the various time intervals for the fracture healing or callus formation. This is just very good case of the abuse of the animal. If motor vehicle, then even there are fractures. If suppose rib fractures are occur, that is only one side. But here on both sides you can see the fracture. So how can you differentiate between the motor vehicle accident and animal abuse at home? The one thing is, this rarely fracture occurs in motor vehicle accidents, even in dogs, because this rib is like then rib fractures can occur not occur frequently in case of motor vehicle accident. But callus formation can occur and various abuse at different times interval. So just remember this. Fracture can tell you about that, and you can prove in the court. This is another example. Can you see here rib fracture, one callus is there. How many ribs are broken? Can you see different time intervals? This is picture. See different sides. These all are fractured ribs. So this is a clear case of animal abuse. You can prove that in the court. This is the animal hit by the owner. You can very well say the bleeding is there. But see, if you see deskinning the animal, bruises are there. Even animal is hit on the left side, but due to force, the fracture occurs on the right side of the skull. See, these are fragments of the bone here. You can see here. And you can check this gum bleeding because the animal. This is the process of the right side because they hit hard on the left side. You can see the eyeball is coming out on the right side due to heavy blow. These all kind of evidence due to blunt injuries you can collect. You can see, but deskinning will give you exact picture. This you can prove there is a hard blow on the head of the animal, and animal might have died due to this blunt force trauma. So this will you can This is the animal has been hit with the collar. So you can immediately match this collar tongue. See here tongue. You can see here collar. You can immediately match bruises with the collar. So you can prove this in the court immediately. Suppose you have to you should take the photograph at the earliest. These all kind of evidence you can see here also. It has been hit by the belt or collar. So you have to match whether it evidence is met exactly the collar or not. Even you can collect the blood which is on the collar and which is from the animal. You can match and tell the same collar has been used to kill or to hit the or abuse the animal. That DNA matching also you can do. This is pictures how you can differentiate if animal has been before death or after death. So these two pictures tell this animal has been inflicted injuries after death, because you won't find any hemorrhages surrounding the wound. It's absent. Even you won't find any evidence of injury surrounding that wound also, in muscle also. No wound. Here also same, any hemorrhages at the border of the wound. So this is post-mortem wounds. Just remember how you can differentiate between ante-mortem wound and post-mortem wound. The absence or presence of the injury. This again I want to draw your attention that suppose this wound has been created 1 minute before death. Then actually this wound is ante-mortem, or 1 minute immediately after death there is still blood supply zone, 30 seconds after death for understanding, then you may find some hemorrhage. So always keep in mind this very 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes after death time, keep in your mind that it may cause very difficult to differentiate between ante-mortem and post-mortem wound in such cases where the time interval is less. Just remember or keep in mind. Now another is a sharp wound. Dr. Modi, how much time I have? Hello?
You are now
Sir,
unmuted.
there is no time limit. Please continue, sir. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. Because I have many slides. I just want to give a brief about all possibly many aspects.
You are going fantastic, sir. Please continue, sir.
Thank you, please. So another after blunt force trauma, the sharp
muted.
force trauma. So how can you see sharp force trauma? There are two types of wound. One is inside wound. Inside wound means suppose you are going for operation. So this is we call incision. But slash wound are caused by sharp object, knives or broken glass being drawn across the skin surface. See, this is important how you can differentiate between wounds. So remember this. Inside wounds tend to be long. I will show you that. And devoid of abrasion or bruising. This is very important. So inside wound doesn't have abrasion or bruising. Whenever you are going for operation, surgeons are knowing very well. You have to immediately use the artery forceps to check the bleeding. So it bleed profusely. Shape of an inside wound gives little indication of the nature or size of the cutting agent. It will give you indication. I will show you that picture also. And challenge here is, suppose you are forcefully want to kill the animal using the knife, then any dog will not allow easily. So interaction between the victim and the attacker is dynamic. Here I want to tell you one thing. Suppose you, just for understanding, I will give you an example. Suppose you want to kill one dog, then what are the aspects the perpetrator? Perpetrator means suppose your neighbor want to kill your dog. They can give dog any anesthetics or sedative, because then dog becomes mild and it is easy for them to kill such dogs. Remember that, because some dogs are very furious, so it is not easy to even trust the dog. Case, how can you prove in the court that animal gets sedated? So you just collect the samples and send for the forensic evidence for any sedative what you are expecting. Sedative or any anesthetic has been given, whether it is given in high dose or in proper dose, you have to prove that. So because this will give you idea, or you can prove your case in the court. Just remember this. So you can prove that before killing of the dog, the attacker has given XYZ medicines. So this this make your case very strong. Just remember, just wherever possible, I will give you examples. Stab wound, puncture wound are penetrating injury produced by thrusting an object into the body. Knives, sword, sticks. Sticks means sharpened sticks, screwdriver, scissors. Very, suppose somebody cut the ear pinna of the animals with scissor, something like that. Punctured wound and may result in severe internal hemorrhages. Remember, severe internal hemorrhages, although external bleeding may be slight. So what does it indicate? To open the animal and check that whether there is a severe hemorrhages or there or not, because outside it may see only a very small wound, and for that also you have to deskin the animal or remove the hair from the skin. Then you can appreciate such changes. Suppose in chest, then there is a pulmonary, myocardial or mediastinal injuries may occur. Pneumothorax, hemothorax, hemopericardium and cardiac tamponade are possible complications in case of stab wound. Remember, pneumothorax, because negative pressure in thoracic cavity has been removed, so lung will collapse. Pneumothorax. Hemothorax due to bleeding, hemopericardium due to injury to heart, and cardiac tamponade, you know it nothing but hemopericardium are possible complications. This will give you idea. Depth of stab wound is greater. In case of inside wound, length was more and depth was smaller. Here, depth is more and length is smaller. Remember, this is the difference you can understand. So double-edged knife, suppose knife is sharp on the both sides, may leave a spoon wound, that tapers at both ends. I will give you an example. That tapers at both ends because due to sharpness on both the sides. In contrast with the hole made by a single-edged blade. In single edge, only one side there is a tapering. If the penetrating object is relatively blunt, I will show you the picture. The entry hole may show inversion of the margin, means skin will go inside. I will show you a picture of this. So if the penetrating object is blunt, the site of injury, angle of penetration and direction of stab wound may provide clue to the posture adopted by the animal at the time of injury. Suppose they are holding the animal in very hard, and then they try to cut the throat. Animal may struggle. So this kind of, then the knife and animal, this you have to assume and create the scene. So various scenario can be seen. Animal may be not controlled by the perpetrator or person who wants to kill the animal. So you may find the different marks on the neck or any other body area. Even dog can attack the perpetrator. So various situations may arise. If it is a post-mortem, there are no hemorrhages. Just now I shown you the picture, just remember that. So this is stab wounds. Stab wounds number has been given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stab wounds. If you open, there may be, you can see the extensive hemorrhages on the inside. It's a female dog. Here you can see this is the very sharp outline in the inside wound. So here might have this M shape. See, shape is M shape. So there are 2, 3 injuries, or they have shaken this object after injury. It will put the another mark. This is called M shape wound. You can see M shape. Just remember this small thing. I am not going in much detail. See, this is again this inside wound, profusely bleeding, and this, if it is used, just you can measure the wound depth and you can measure this object which is recovered from the side. That's the size. This is give you idea, and you again depend on, suppose the perpetrator has used this much knife only, then your reading may go wrong. So just for idea, you can just check whether it is a two-sided sharp. Here you can see on the both sides sharp. So you can see this tapering here also. Other side we can't see. This is tapering of wound here. You can see tapering of wound V-shape. So this will give you an idea. See, these are many stab wounds. You can see in sheep one case 17 stab wounds. 17 they have given this. So this I was talking about relatively blunt object. Can you see this inversion of skin will go inside? Here you can see outside, but here skin will go inside. It is called inversion of the skin with relatively the blunt object. Relatively blunt object. You can see this. This is very important part. I have taken from the Russell and co-worker 2016. There is one issue especially dedicated to the forensic veterinary pathology. So pathologists or students or veterinarians which are interested to see this, and it is freely available on the website. You can check the veterinary pathology journal. I think it is published in 2016. This is the article taken from that issue only. So they have all kind of, they have covered, and HU dedicated is excellent material to read if you are interested, or if you sometimes want to go to court or prove your case. And they have given like blunt injury, sharp injury, electrical injuries. So all kind of literature. I have with me around, I think, 15 to 20 articles. You can see this excellent material. So what is the difference between laceration and inside wound? See, margins are irregular in case of this laceration, whereas margins are regular and tapering. See, tapering margins here in case of inside wound. Associated lesions, abrasion, abrasion, and here you can find the contusion frequently present. Here it is absent, right? Here you can find the abrasion or contusion here, this kind. Extremity is possibly divergent, swallowtail. See, divergent, one or two divergent. You can find the taper and axis of the lesion. Tissue bridge is frequently present. Here, tissue bridge. Here, you won't find any tissue bridge here. Hair is crushed. This is excellent. Oh, suppose you want to prove that some animal body is lying there. You want to prove that whether animal has been attacked by the wild animal or some person or man, human beings. What you can do? You can do two things. One thing is, if it is attacked by some person, then you may find this, suppose inside wound, for understanding, you can find the cutting of hair very sharply. Suppose incision, you are putting incision on the skin, then that hair coming in the way of this incision, it very sharply cut. Like you can see this advertisement of Gillette. They see very sharp cut hair on your beard. They like that. But if it is crushed or intact, suppose attack, because animal is not attacking in the specific way, so you may not find the very sharp cut of hair. Second thing, how we can prove? You can collect the samples from here, and you can match the DNA. Suppose the DNA from the leopard, then you can say it is attacked by the leopard. Or suppose if DNA is from the human beings, here, suppose in this case, then you can say it is attacked by the human. Just DNA of the species, you can. Two ways are there to differentiate whether animal has been attacked by the leopard or human beings or any wild animals. So animals and human beings, just remember this. Now asphyxia. This is an excellent part, and just I want to draw your attention. Asphyxia covers a number of conditions that resulted in the interference with uptake and utilization of oxygen. So there is anoxia. There is a problem with the uptake and utilization oxygen and elimination of carbon dioxide. So how it can be caused? So suppose lack of oxygen in the inspired air, obstruction of air passage by any means. I am coming to that. Restriction of chest movement. Suppose you are going in the train in Mumbai and there is no, such a crowd that your chest movement is restricted. So it is suffocation. It is part of asphyxia. Histotoxic anoxia. Very good example is hydrocyanic acid poisoning, dairy poisoning. Because in that this oxygen is present, but tissues are unable to utilize that oxygen. So this is histotoxic anoxia. So this is excellent picture that you can see suffocation, strangulation, and mechanical asphyxia. So here you can see this chemical asphyxiant. Here you can say carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide gases can cause the asphyxia. Confined spaces or ventilated atmosphere where inadequate oxygen is available, or displacement of oxygen by other gases. Suppose in an environment where carbon dioxide is more and oxygen concentration going down, such kind of things you can see. Here in chemical asphyxia, failure of cell to uptake or use oxygen, carbon monoxide poisoning, then this hydrocyanic acid poisoning. Likewise, smothering, these two terminologies, smothering and talking. Here smothering, obstruction of air passage above the epiglottis. Here after below the epiglottis, just remember, smothering is very common in chicks. When say during the winter season, if you won't provide the sufficient heat by the bulb or lamp, then they go in the corner and they go pile up one or the other. It is for smothering. So there is a problem with the oxygen and chicks may die. Talking is esophagus, some potato or something like that will go to. I'm talking about this esophagus. Likewise, it can occur below in the trachea also. Something is so failure to transfer adequate environmental oxygen in the blood. Strangulation is ligature, pressure on the neck by a constricting band. through rope or something like that, you are putting the ligature. Then manual processing with the arm. You can use your arm or or hands, the neck. We are seeing in the movies sometimes these kind of or ligature, some kind this kind of hanging due to this in cord. They are hanging the pressure on the neck by a constricting band tightened by weight of the body. Hanging is occur whenever they are the court give this this to these criminals, prosecute the criminals. So there these things, failure of oxygen to transport in the blood and ischemia result, and ischemia can cause the death. Mechanical asphyxia, you are in such a position that compromise this the ability to breathe. Example in the train also you can see, or traumatic, sometimes external chest force can also do that. So animal suspected of drowning, here I just want to tell you, if just one question I'll tell you, animal is drowned before death or after death? That is the question, and I want to elaborate something on that. Was the animal was alive when it entered the water? Yes or no? If no, then it may be disposed after death or fell into the water after death. How it can fail? Suppose animal having the ataxia, animal having a fear, animal having any other thing that it may fall into the water before death, just before death. That's what I was telling. So some kind of that can occur before death even, but after that somebody can put into the water or dispose into the water or anything. Yes, why did animal not exit the water? Here I'm sorry. Here if it is alive, then it can happen. Why it could not exit the water? Suppose animal is sedated, then suppose they have ataxia, epilepsy, something like that, that it cannot come out of the water. And why it did not survive? Some disease is there, see, accidental injury or something is there. This can, if it survive, then no morbidity. If morbidity is there, then maybe death or disabled or comatose. It can be seen. The reason central in asphyxia is, just remember this, hypoxemia, a deficiency of the oxygen. Just remember that. Right? Then animal try to hold the breath for 1 or 2 minutes. If it is alive, then anyway the water will enter inside this lung, will induce the laryngospasm, then try to vomit the things, and the water enters into the stomach and try to vomit the things, all kind of this, and ultimately the animal may die to hypoxemia, and the lungs are heavy. I can show you the picture. See, this is ligature marks. So just the save the skin, you can very or appreciate the ligature mark. But if you open the animals or de-skinned animals, extensive hemorrhages and bruising, or you can see here on the ventral part of the neck. Just remember, this can prove your case. Just remember, indentation of the hair in the ligature mark, and you can see this. Here you can see small bruises, small things. Here I can say, suppose animal is drowned and an animal was alive, you can find this, suppose it has been held at the neck or at the hind limbs or lower part of the hind limb, you can de-skin that area and you can find the bruises, because perpetrator may hold the animal very tightly. So you can prove that also. Here animal has taken this material from this whale or wherever it has been drowned, and this material or any bacteria or this any thing, soil or anything can be go into the lungs due to heavy inhaled air or breathing. If it is alive, then it can be demonstrated here. And there are permanent froth formation and very hemorrhagic fluid here in the trachea due to this breathing, due to the forced breathing by the animal to survive. So this will give you indication. This is not a pathognomonic, but it will give you indication for that. Then surrounding, this is a crime scene, because here the this muddy water kind of things which present in the nearby the death of the, this is crime scene investigation. So animal skin also you can see, suppose they wipe off with the towel, so outer skin may be wet, but if you see the hairs or hair roots or the skin, after this removing of the hair, it is wet, and surrounding also wet. This will be proven. There is no 100% test available, but these all circumstantial evidences can prove that animal might have been drowned here, and it is the body is found here. This is even, you can see this animal is hanged on the tree. You can see indentation mark with the rope, because two sides here in the rope. This rope has been tied here. You can see the bruises on the ventral neck of the animal. This has been hanged. So you can see the rope marks here, indentation of the skin. If you can remove the skin, you may find the clear marks here also. There is, in case of hanging also, there is, you can find this this blood clot or severe hemorrhages in the trachea also. So what are the ancillary tests for especially drowning? Lung weights, but it is not specific due to edema. The lungs do not collapse, and you may find the accumulation of the water. I'll talk about this after this. Electrolyte test, because if animal has been drowned in the salty water, you may find the increase in the sodium concentration of that water. Strontium also is available in soil, and but this metal is more in the salty water as compared to this fresh water. Or so you can here diatoms are test even in human beings. The diatoms are algae with silica outline, so it is very resistant to the enzymatic digestion and autolysis. But there are more than 10,000 species of the diatoms. Its species varies during the seasons. Its species varies from it is found in soil, in water. So species varies which is found in soil and water. And then the season also, it may vary. It can be taken through ingestion, through inhalation, through environment. Even species in the environment varies. So these tests, if suppose animal is drowned and is alive, then diatom can be found, and diatom in live animal due to blood circulation through heart, it can be found in bone marrow. So if you found diatom in bone marrow, it give you, or it indicate that animal was alive at the time of drowning. If you won't find this diatom in any other organ except this respiratory system, animal might have drowned after the death. This is just, so suppose somebody has drowned animal pond at one place, and the animal is died, and they are dragging, or they are putting, or they are buried animal in the other places. Then how can you say? So you can test for the diatom. If diatom is different, suppose animal, you excavate the animal and take the diatom test, it is different from the soil where it is buried. It means animal has been drowned at the other place and buried at the different place. Suppose animal is died and you can buried in the soil, and if it is alive and buried in soil, what is the difference? If it is alive and buried in the soil, then the sand particle you may find into the lungs, in the deeper part of the respiratory system, because it try to inhale this soil. And if it is died, you may find these particles, but it is in the upper respiratory tract only. So these are the differences you may see. Any other thing in the diatom test? It is, if absence of diatom test does not rule out the drowning. Remember, if you won't find the positive diatom test, it does not mean animal has not been killed by the drowning. So there are many tests you have to, circumstantial evidences, this test you have to go for it. Thermal and electrical injuries. Thermal means through electric current or through lightning strike. So these two I will cover. See, lightning, this is extremely short duration as compared to electrocution by artificial electricity. Strike washes over the outside of body. So you may not find frequently these the internal organs are affected in lightning strike, remember. And deep burning is not a regular feature here, because it only pass it like a splash from the outer side of the body. Some singing means burning of the superficial burn may be found. Linear burns, I will show you the picture on the medial aspect of the limbs, are more commonly found. Remember, this animal body is can pass current very efficiently as compared to the earth. So whenever animals are present, hello. So sometimes animals are
You are now unmuted.
Please wait, sir.
echo is coming. Echo is coming.
Dr. Kunal. Kunal Sahu, please off your mic.
Okay. So deep burning is not regular picture, and linear burn I will show you picture. Suppose animals are in the
You are now
at the
muted.
time of generally large animals, ruminants going for grazing, and at the time of such in monsoon season lightning, they accumulate under the tree. So what happens? Light will come on the tree, then through animal body it will go to the earth. So all animals may be died or may be affected, because the body is can transmit the energy very fast as compared very little resistance in animal body as compared to the soil. Just remember this. So you may find, even I have read that the birds were flying, the group of birds like swans, they are flying, they all are affected with lightning during there, so all will fell down on the ground and will die. So just also incidents, you remember these things. The feathering marks a pattern of superficial injury caused by electrocution showering. If you reflect the skin, I will show you the picture. So rigor mortis will pass soon and up, it will goes off quickly. Ecchymosis is contusion and fracture of bone. Sometimes it hits very hard, and its where place is such a hard, so muscle get contracted at a time. It will put pressure on the bones, and bone gets fractured. Just remember, fracture also you can find. So how will you prove? Suppose you can find the fracture, you can find the linear hemorrhages. So most important part is history of thunderstorm in that area. So you can prove that that animal might have died due to this thunderstorm or this lightning strike. So here you can see singeing of hair in the animal, so due to the superficial light passing from that area. This is the lightning marks. You can see inner part of the thigh of the horse, and this part you can see on the ground. Can you see this? This tree-like pattern, fern-like pattern. So it is also a Schulz and co-workers in 2016. So you can see this part on the ground. An animal, just you have to remove the skin and check this with the history of the lightning strike in that area. So you can very well say that this is due to some voice is coming, doctor. Sorry. So this is the lightning strike. See fracture here. You can see the fracture, as I told you, Williams and co-workers test in the pig lightning strike. Here also you can just take a radiograph and you can see the spine fractures, which is very common in lightning strike. So these are the things you can prove that. So now another is electrocution. The general principle: the longer the contact with a high voltage current, the greater will be generation of heat and destruction of tissue. So high voltage current with longer duration can put this this generation of heat and destruction of tissue, more damage to the tissue, burns to the lip, mouth of domestic animal. If your dog is chewing the live wire in your home, then it may get this burning in the lips and mouth. When skin and hair are dry, electric resistance high, means dry skin cannot pass the heat efficiently as compared to the moist skin. I will tell you, suppose in wild animals, if this electrocution occurs, so suppose pond is there small, so on one side there is a live wire, and lions or any wild animal is getting this going for the drinking of the water, get electrocuted, but injury may be less. As remember that water is a very good there is less resistance, and the current can pass very efficiently through the water. If animal is within the water, also can be affected. Suppose buffaloes are going for this wallowing in the water, that also can be affected. In wild animals, suppose high voltage current is passing, the injury is more. Remember, see, wild can suffer very severe burns with high voltage electrical cables. And in high voltage electrical cables, it is not necessary to touch even the cable. If you are suppose 1 or 2 feet far from that cable, it will form the electric arc, and there is severe injury. You may find sometimes in birds or in case of wild animals. Just remember, it is not necessary every time that you touch the wire. If it is a high voltage line, if you are 2-3 feet away, it can you can get the electric current. As burning sign, superficial, you can get all these things if it is for short duration. Prolonged contact can cause full thickness skin burns and destruction of underlying tissue, including muscles, tendon, and bone. So if it is duration is more, even you can find the burning up to the bone. So there you might have you will study in the during your undergraduation, or might have studied the different degrees of burn. The time does not permit first degree burn, second degree burn, third degree burn, and fourth degree burn. So this is kind of things you can see. Indirect contact with electric hair singeing, burns are much less severe. Fatal electrocution, current passing through the body. Body means in the visceral organs. The reason would be the cardiac arrest, because myocardium get damaged, and even vital center in the brain. Body is better conductor of electricity than the ground. Hence, all electricity can prefer through animal body before it reaches to the earth. Remember, that is the reason. Rigor mortis developed quickly and passed off early, because all energy which is present in the body will be utilized during the contraction of muscles due to electrocution. So there are no ATPs, so it will go very quickly. Congestion and potential throughout the body, because electric current can very well pass through the neurons, then blood vessels. So it mostly damages the blood vessels and neurons. Linear tracheal hemorrhages you may find, dark unclotted blood you may find. Hemopericardium is the very prominent features in eagles, electrocuted eagles. So suppose you are going for postmortem in the peacocks, also you may find the hemocardium. Remember that. Peaks, muscular spasms, and violent or strong muscular spasms can lead to the fractures. Before going for this electricity current death, exclude other causes of death for confirmation, and circumstantial evidences, history can prove this. So I will go a bit quickly here. So if you see this, the birds is severely burnt, electrocuted by Fitzgerald. You can see this 46 kV line. Here also you can see the singeing of hairs around neck. These hairs are burned, or it is erected. Rectal bristles. Here small burns. You have to see typically, or very pertinent to the finding these lesions. You can see this. Just see hair feathers. This is singeing due to electric current passing. This is normal feather. You can see feather by this indicative of electric line of singeing. Here line of singeing. Here you can see burning. Can you see? So the very good evidences you can see. Severe burn in the root of this feather calamus and other feathers also. You can see just while singeing in the one hair. So it depends on the current, how much current is there and duration of the current. So just you have to remember. Only small marks. I once went for postmortem of the peacock, and I could find just such marks, because the history was that peacock, peahen, actually it was peahen, was sitting on the wire, and the eyewitness told that it was sitting just quietly and it fell down from the wire. So I look, it is a maybe mild current. So just such marks in the find, and then I find the internal hemorrhages. So it have proved that it is due to electrocution. See, some more burning, minimum singeing, some more degree of burning. So you may find the various degrees of burning here. The muscles. If animal are sitting on these wires, you may find during the perching, you may find the injury or burning in the foot. Just remember, foot, sole of the foot, burning marks. Just remember this. See, burning. Here also burning. Burning your marks in the very easy diagnosis if you know a little bit. See, it's a burning. Hawk. Even more severe. So it's a burning carbon in your body. Here also you may find the marks. Burning marks. Burning marks. See feathers. Normal feathers, suppose. Altered, and these the burning feathers. Just to give you a comparative idea of this. There's some leg amputated or due to burning, lost the right foot. This is the head. Sometimes burning, what happens due to the electrical wire passing through the stainless steel or metal roof. Then also you can find hemorrhages all over the organ. Thus I found the rumen of the electrocuted bullock. See, severe hemorrhages in the rumen. So you can do this. This is if a wire is touching to the body, then this line can pass through this, and you can see such marks. You can see reddening surrounding bruises here. Slight injuries. Suppose some wild animal can, or a wild dog or the pet dog can injure the animal, so it can hold. Then you can just see the fracture of ribs due to this tight holding through the mouth. If you open such animal, this is the rabbit, you may find the severe internal hemorrhages. You can see this dog has followed the deer and has bitten. So bitten marks by the dog. In case of this is deer, suppose it will be killed by or it will be bitten by some wild animals. You can see these marks on the neck region especially. These are the things you can, where it is bitten, you can find the severe bruising and hemorrhages internally in the muscles. So these are the indications. So just last few slides. Firearm injuries. I would not go in detail, but various kinds of weapons has been used. But just remember the entry hole is small. You may find the presence of traces of this bullet in the entry hole. Minimum damage in the surrounding. Then this border is very uniform. Exit wound may be more. Borders is rough and it is larger in size, and you won't find normally this the remnants of these bullets. Is just remember the entry wound and exit wound. If entry wound and exit wounds are present, you can open the animal and you can see the trajectory. Maybe it has passed through the heart, maybe in through liver, it can pass through. So this will give you idea about the trajectory of the bullet. If bullet is hit from the far or smaller size of bullet, it will inflict the lesser injury compared. You can find the severe hemorrhages and this if hit by this, even you can find here. So it will be hit by this the strong from nearby and the larger bullet or strong through rifle. So just give you idea about this. Just radiography in excellent picture. You can see how many bullets are there. See, this all spot. Each spot is individual bullet. See, you can appreciate how many bullets. So radiography is an excellent thing you can do to prove the bullet injuries. So before I conclude, just resources available. If anybody is interested to do the veterinary forensic science course, this very one university in USA is giving online veterinary forensic sciences courses, Master of Science, graduate certificate or non-degree courses. You can look at the website. These are very costly courses I have seen, but you can, if you are interested, or some of the modules also you can take, which are around $500 or more. You can tap the website for that. Another is a very free courses are available. I have done 2 courses on the ASPCA Pro website. You can go to training and free training online courses. You can see toxicology, you can see the cruelty cases, all kind of cases. Here I have done 2 courses and registered for more. So this is excellent resources online, which is freely available. With the scientists there, they are putting some more courses during the December or January months. She replied me. So you can go for these courses. One International Veterinary Forensic Association is there. Here also you can find these workshops or CL Davis seminars. So these 3 resources I find, and 4 very few books available. But these 4 books also is very handy. Only 106 page I already mentioned during this, and one veterinary pathology and the special edition dedicated to the forensic pathology. Excellent resources. If you read these all these things, I think you become the expert. We are also reading this, and that's all from my side. And I tried to include this. But one more thing before I conclude, that that I have some more slides, but due to time, I will not go for that. For your patience hearing, and I will try to reply the questions as far as possible. So please.
You are now unmuted.
Thank you, sir, for your very informative and nice explanation regarding the forensic pathology, especially in veterinary point of view. Thank you very much, sir. So, dear participants, if you have any question, please write down in chat box. I think there is a 1.5 hour, minimum 1.5 hour lecture delivered by Dr. Rangadia, sir. It is definitely very nice, sir, and it will be useful for our field vets
Yes, I tried to accommodate, but if no questions means there are two things. Either they have understood fully or they don't understand anything.
No, sir, I think they understood fully because your explanation is very nice, sir. Very nice explanation, and all the things you are presented over here, it will be uh, also observed in field also. So it will be
That's
very
what
easy
I
to
mean,
understand.
because in our country, what happens, there sometimes, because I never went to court, frankly speaking. This is the review kind of work. We are not doing many works,
Yes, sir.
but
Yes, definitely.
whenever, if we know basic things, so whenever case comes, no, we can deal it with better. That's what I mean. Otherwise, I am not an expert forensic pathologist,
Yes,
but
sir.
reviewed all things. I have these books with me. So I every day since 2 months I was reading because I was worrying how I can deliver. Because if you do work your own, then it is easy. But if
Yes,
you
sir. Yes.
review the article, then you have to bit. But the participants are very few. I think 28 only, right?
No, sir. It is a those participants they are joined our NI website. The some more participant are is on Facebook.
Can you finally afterwards give me how many are there?
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. Okay. If there is no question, so I request Dr. Deepak Suthar for vote of thanks. Dr. Deepak.
You are now muted.
Vote of thanks.
Dr. Modi.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Hello,
बंद करो. Okay.
Dr. Modi.
You are now
So I
unmuted.
think Dr. Deepak have some internet problem.
Dr. Modi.
Yes, sir.
I was just want to tell you, sound was right or not? Somebody is
Ye-
telling
Yes,
sound
sir.
was
Yes,
coming
sir. Yes,
clearly.
sir. Sound is
Okay,
excellent,
okay.
but
Thank
there
you,
is a
thank you.
problem from them, that side, sir.
Okay. That's why because many people are writing, so
There is a two
I
or
see.
three people. Otherwise, the
Okay.
participant is 46 to 48.
Sound is good, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Deepak, please.
You are now muted. You are now unmuted.
So, at the end of the webinar, I thanks to Vice Chancellor of the Navsari Agriculture University and Dean of the my college.
Hello.
Yes, Dr.
Audible
Deepak.
my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please,
Please
Tangadiya sir?
continue, sir.
please.
Please, sir. You continue, sir.
My
Yes,
Yes,
you are
please.
audible, sir. Dr. Deepak. So, I thanks my Vice Chancellor, Dr. J.P. Patel, sir, my Dean, Dr. Kharadi, sir, for providing a very nice opportunity and permitted us to conduct this
hello.
veterinary
Audible?
webinar series. And I also thankful to authority of the Junagadh Agriculture University and Dean of the College of Veterinary Science, JU, Junagadh, to permitted Dr. Tangadia sir to deliver this webinar on our NAU platform. And I also thankful to Dr. Tangadia sir for accept our invitation to deliver this beautiful webinar with us. So I thanks Dr. Vaves Tangadia sir also. And lastly, I thanks all the participants to hear patiently uh, and join us with, on this Veterinary Webinar Series 2020. So I thanks to all of you, and at last I thanks to Dr. Deepak Suthar, Organizing Secretary of this Veterinary Webinar Series. He taken a very good pain or excellent pain to standardize this whole the process, and he is a pioneer of this veterinary webinar series. So I thanks organizing secretary of this veterinary webinar series, Dr. Deepak Suthar. So I again thanks to all of you, especially Dr. Bhavesh Rangadia sir, and we will meet on next Sunday on same time with a new topic and new speaker. Till then, goodbye.
1 minute,
Yes,
doctor.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I also would like to thank our university officers and Dean Dr. Tak sir and Dr. Modi, Dr. Suthar and all authorities or office bearers of Navsari Agricultural University for giving me this opportunity to interact with the students and participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So now I end the webinar.
Okay.
You are
Thank
now
you.
muted.